Hello, welcome to our Foodstuff Exports YouTube series, and this time we are going to be discussing foodstuff exports to Canada. My name is Toby Daly and I'm the author of A to Z of Mini Exporting. Alright, let's dive right in. So by the time we get to the end of this session, if you've learned something, if you like it, if it has impacted your business in one way or another, make sure to like, to subscribe, and to share the video to friends and colleagues in the industry. Thank you. So we are looking at foodstuff export to Canada, a strategic guide for Nigerian exporters. So this presentation offers an in-depth look into Canada's market dynamics, regulatory environment, and opportunities for Nigerian foodstuff exporters. So, what do we understand by this nation, this great country called Canada? Geographical position, it is the second largest country globally, spanning 6 time zones. The population as at 2023 figure is approximately 39 million people. Okay, the political structure is federal parliamentary democracy and constitutional monarchy. Now the economic classification is high income advanced economy with strong emphasis on trade. High income, and it's also an advanced economy. All right, and that's one of the reasons why you have lots of Nigerians moving and shifting to Canada, and lots of Africans also. So this, trust me, is a huge market, a good market when we are discussing Nigerian and African food stuff. The GDP, this figure is as at 2023. The nominal GDP of Canada is 2.5 trillion Canadian dollars. 2.5 trillion, that's a lot. Okay, so GDP growth rate is at 1.6%, the inflation is at 3.2, and unemployment in the country is 5.4. Major industries, you have natural resources, manufacturing, technology, and services. Okay, so when you look at these major industries, you don't really see more of food right there, or agriculture. Okay, so that is already showing you the opportunities you want to tap into. Okay, so now Canada's food import landscape. Total food imports in 2023 is about 48.2 billion Canadian dollars. 48.2 billion Canadian dollars. That is for their total food import in 2023. So you can take your research further to look at, of this amount, what percentage is going to Africa, as a continent. What's the volume of food exports that we are doing to this country? So top imported food categories, we have fresh and frozen fruits, vegetables, seafood, spices, and condiments. Well, seafood, yes, I know that very well. Yeah, we do lots of seafood, fresh, frozen, dried, smoked, to Canada. Then we have spices and condiments, soup ingredients, and all that also do very well from here. Import dependency. Canada relies heavily on food imports due to its climate and growing season limitations. Okay, so they rely heavily on what you export, so they need you to export more and more, most especially the the Africans that reside there, so they want to have that taste, so which you the exporter can only provide. Okay, so let's look at Nigerian-Canadian trade relations. Bilateral trade volume in 2023 is about 1.2 billion Canadian dollars. So when you look at this trade volume, it's really small. When you look at what the GDP of the country is, you look at what they are actually importing in terms of food and all that, you see that our trade volume is really small. So we need more output. Okay, we need more outputs. So now Nigeria's exports to Canada, what we do export to this country in general, okay, in general terms, agricultural products, minerals and metals. Okay, so what does Nigeria import from Canada? Machineries, pharmaceuticals, and we are both countries are members of the Commonwealth, which also facilitate trade relations. So that's even one of the reasons why Nigeria as a country is, supposed to work on increasing its volume, the trade volume, especially when it comes to food, because over here in Nigeria we have lots of food stuff wasting away. We have lots of when we are talking about post harvest losses, it's over 50-60% in Nigeria. So this is one of the things that we can actually take up as an opportunity to even do more with Canada. Okay, so Nigerians in Canada. So let's just talk about the Nigerian community in Canada and why it's, as a Nigerian looking to export foodstuffs to Canada, why should you actually be looking at that route, that trade route, and why why the opportunities, are there, for you to actually exploit. So let's just go over that. So the Nigerian community in Canada represents one of the fastest growing African diasporas in North America. So just look around you, look around your area, your neighborhood, your community, how many people have traveled to Canada from there since when you were in school, in secondary school, high school, university, your undergraduate, postgraduate days. Just look at people you've come in contact with, and you can see a lot of people that have left the country and now living or residents in Canada. Okay, so their presence play a crucial role in driving demand for authentic African foodstuff and cultural products. So over 75,000 Nigerians officially reside in Canada. This is a 2021 Canadian census, and we currently are in 2025. So you can do the math to see that this figure would have been shot up by now. It would have increased by now. Okay, so Nigerians are part of the larger Black Canadian population of over 1.5 million. Okay, so that tells you that even though your target market can be Nigerians in Canada, you have other markets, you have other addressable market. The total addressable market for Canada is even more. It's 1.5 million people that you are looking at, even if your target market is 75,000 Nigerians in Canada. So if you have an African food store in Canada that you are working with, that you are supplying Nigerian foodstuffs to, you are not only supplying the Nigerians, you are also feeding those Black population. And out of this Black population, you have people from Ghana, you have people from Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa, North Africa, East and Central Africa. You have Indians, you have from people from the Arab, of people of color, that just really want to taste whatever is coming from Africa. Okay, so major cities with dense Nigerian communities in Canada, you have Toronto in Ontario, you have Calgary, Edmonton, Alberta, and You have Winnipeg and Manitoba, Ottawa and Montreal. Okay, so let's just dive in more into this Nigerian community in Canada, so that it can give us a very good perspective of why you need to take this destination serious and your foodstuff exports endeavor. Okay, so we have the community characteristics of Nigerians over there. They are well educated and economically active, because most Nigerians who find their way to Canada, most actually go there for their MSc to study, or some PhD, and when some are done with their MSc, they still go for their PhD. So that's one easy route for Nigerians to get into Canada. So uh, they are well educated, and most black communities in Canada are well educated and economically active. That is, they don't just lazy around. They are working hard, and making impact. Many Nigerians in Canada are professionals in healthcare, tech, education, and business. Strong cultural retention. Nigerian Canadians maintain culinary and lifestyle traditions, leading to steady demand for foodstuffs like yam, garri, egusi, ogbono, dried fish, and palm oil. So Nigerians in Canada will not forget their owambe that they are doing, that they do on Saturdays, that they do on Sundays, birthday parties, wedding parties, different parties. That they throw, and when they throw these parties, they must eat the traditional food. So where are they going to get this food from if not from you? So you have to be the one to export these foodstuffs to them. Religious and ethnic diversity. Communities span multiple tribes and faiths, including Yoruba, Igbo, Hausas, and others, creating varied market needs. Okay, so the market impact, ethnic grocery stores. So you want to have various African stores in Canada. So you see young entrepreneurs, you see Indian entrepreneurs, or yes, entrepreneurs from India setting up African stores, setting up their own food store and buying things from Africa, for the black communities around them, or for the Nigerian communities around them. And also, when you check online, when you check the news, or on YouTube, you see various Nigerian entrepreneurs who are also thriving with African focused stores, okay, where they sell African food stuff, both raw food stuff, processed and packaged food stuffs. And they are in different cities, various cities, not just Toronto and Winnipeg, but various cities across Canada. Restaurants and caterers. Many Nigerians own or manage Afro-Caribbean food businesses, which regularly import bulk ingredients from where? From Nigeria. So who is actually exporting to these organizations, to these people? You can be that person. You can be part of this business. Okay, cultural events, festival, church conventions, weddings, and naming ceremonies drive periodic spikes in food demand. And let's talk about regulatory bodies and framework. So what this does, just the way you have in Nigeria, where you want to export your food stuff, or when you want to ship your food stuff, the things you do, the documents that is needed, whatever that needs to be signed, stamped, checked, and all that. Just that same way you also have it in Canada. We have the Canadian Food Inspection Agency that oversees food safety, labeling, import regulations. We have Health Canada, who is responsible for public health, so that you don't just ship something that could cause, a public health issue, over there, that maybe that just starts spreading around. So they can quickly contain it right there. So they'll check what you sent. After checking, they'll check the label, they'll check when it's produced, when it's going to expire, the quality, is it clean, is it good for consumption, is it even just safe for them to accept it into their country. So these are some of the things they are going to check, including nutritional labeling and food standards. So another is safe food for Canadian regulations. Okay, so it mandates licensing for food importers over there. So if they are importing foodstuff and all that, so there is a license your importer is going to have, depending on what the importer actually imports. If the importer is importing containerized foodstuff that comes in large containers and all that, so the importer must have like a license that the safe food for Canadian regulation will have to check. And they require preventive control plans, so that there is not going to be any germs flying around, disease flying around, or whatever, just because a container of foodstuff came into their country, or maybe a consignment was shipped into their country and allowed to enter. So ensures traceability of food products. Yes, it ensures traceability, like the country of origin. So where is this food or the product? Where is it coming from? Where is it going? And all that. Even who are those that will consume it? So they look into all these things. For some countries in the EU, for instance, when they know that the food stuff you've sent is going to be consumed by Nigerians, for instance, let's say you sent something that is not even popular, that people over there in that country does not know about, that maybe it's something peculiar just to Nigerians alone, and they know that, oh, this stuff is only consumed by Nigerians, not our people or not any other community. The way they will assess it is going to be a little bit different from the one that they know that is general and everybody can consume. So they check all these things, and whatever you're also shipping, that's why you need to tell your shipping agent, your freight forwarder, whoever is working with you, that they have to be compliant. So they have to check their compliance. They have to make sure that they work with these bodies. They have to make sure everything is in order, the documentation, the licenses, so that you don't just lose money when you make a shipment. This is very important, because we see as active exporters ourselves, we see goods being rejected every now and then. Okay, and that's usually a big loss. Okay, so import requirements and procedures. So import requirements, we are talking about in Canada now, not in Nigeria, but in Canada. What are these requirements? What are the procedures they are looking for? Licensing: obtain a food import license under SFCR that I just mentioned now. So your importer, that is your client over there, or your customer over there, will do this. Documentation: import declaration forms, certificate of origin, phytosanitary certificate for plant-based products. Well, as an exporter, if what you are exporting to Canada is containerized foodstuff, so let's say in 20 feet container or in 40 feet container, you want to make sure that you have some documents that you are going to be sending to your importer over there in Canada, like your invoice, your packing list, certificate of origin, phytosanitary certificate, and you have aquatic also for plants, sorry, for anything that has to do with aquatic animals and all that. So you have that certificate. Also you have health certificate. So also sometimes the importer or your buyer can request for some specific certification from you. You also make sure you get those and send it to the importer, okay, over there. So inspection: the CFIA conducts inspection at ports of entry, and there's random sampling and testing for compliance. Okay, one thing about the procedures, these frameworks and regulations, is that once the custom is going through your documents, going through whatever is inside your container, and they notice just one error, just a little mistake, that means they'll have to search through your container. You have to bring down everything, start opening them up, looking through them, making sure that there is no drug, there is no bad product, there is nothing wrong with what you brought into their country. So that's why it's usually very important, depending on the country that you are exporting to, that you should follow the requirements, the procedures, and make sure to do things to standard. Okay, okay, all right. So we're also going to be looking at labeling and packaging standards. Labeling and packaging standards. So, like I said in the last series, when we were talking about foodstuff export to Georgia. By the way, if you haven't watched that and you want to do something about exporting to Georgia in Europe, just check for the video on this channel. Okay, you can also refer your friends to watch that. So, like I said, in that series, I explained that when you are labeling your product for a country whose primary language is not English, or whose major part of the population doesn't speak English, you want to make sure that your label is bilingual. So you want to make sure that if you write smoked catfish on your label, you must also translate that smoked catfish to the language that will be understood by them. You must also put it just beside that label. So now, bilingual labeling, all label must be in both English and French. So you know Canada has a French speaking side and English speaking side. So the major two languages spoken in Canada is French and English. So you want to do that in your label. So nutritional facts table, mandatory for most repackaged foods. Okay, most repackaged foods, your garri, your ogbono, your locust beans, your whatever you are sending out there, most especially if it is containerized. Okay, if you are using container, if you are shipping it off to, let's say, an African food store, a food store, a big time buyer that has a warehouse over there, you want to make sure everything is labeled in order with the nutritional facts, then ingredient list, okay, and their weight in whatever that you are shipping, the allergen declaration, so that you have to disclose if the people consuming this product can be exposed to any form of allergies. So you just have to do your research. Okay, so date markings. Date markings is actually very important. Some of the things that I just spoke about, like bilingual labeling, nutritional fact table, ingredient list, and all that, some might actually be overlooked, depending on the kind of custom official or the port official that is working on your container over there. If it's a container, all right, that is working on your container over there, so some of these things might be overlooked, but they will not overlook date of manufacturing and expiry date, the date the product was produced and the date it is going to expire. In fact, sometimes if you don't write, like for some EU countries, for instance, if you don't add the manufacturing date, they won't mind, but that expiry date you must write it explicitly. It must be explicit so that they will know that what you're actually bringing is good and can be consumed. Okay, so this is very important. So some of these things might not be so necessary when you are shipping something in small quantity and you are using air freight. Maybe what you are sending is just 5 kilogram, is just 10 kilogram, 20 kilogram, 50 kilogram, as a mini exporter. So you might not need most of these things, but when you are looking at that large voluminous export, you need them. But it's actually good that if you are building your brand in Nigeria, you are producing small scale, but your plan is to export to these countries, it's better you just spend the necessary time and invest the necessary money to your labeling and your packaging. Okay, so market opportunities for Nigerian foodstuffs. Market opportunities for Nigerian foodstuffs. We have there is a high demand for yam and yam flour, cassava and garri, egusi seeds, that's melon seeds. So in fact, when you are doing your labeling, you must do your research to know which one should you write on the label. Is it melon or is it egusi? Very important. Very important. Although when you are looking for your HS code on your trade portal, you can also you can see some HS codes that will be egusi while some will be melon. Okay, all these things are very important, but in this series we won't be talking about HS codes. So now, dried fish and crayfish, spices like suya spice and pepper soup mix. Okay, so target markets are markets that you are supposed to target: ethnic grocery stores, African and Caribbean restaurants, other ethnic, online ethnic food retailers. Okay, so there are several people, maybe they are just doing a side hustle, and their side hustle is to sell Nigerian foodstuffs within the Nigerian community, just for the Nigerians living in Canada, just around them, close to them, their friends, their church members, their families, or what have you. So you can target people like that also. Then you have the consumer base. Growing Nigerian and West African diaspora in major Canadian cities are the ones who need these products. Okay, who needs these products? All right. So Canada's regional breakdown for export opportunities. So one of the reasons why I did this for this series for Canada is that Canada is a very large country. It's not as is a huge country with different regions, and each regions have their own policies, have their own government, have their own Nigerian communities. Okay, so I just wanted us to look at the numbers, check what each region is all about. So that will give us like a view into how the market can operate. So for instance, let's say you've already started exporting to Canada, but you only export to Ontario, for instance. You only do Ontario. And you've been doing Ontario for some time. So this will give you more insights into how you can actually break into other parts of Canada and why it's important, and what the Nigerian community in these regions look like. Okay, so Canada is divided into 5 key geographic regions. You have the Atlantic Canada, Central Canada, Prairie provinces, West Coast, British Columbia, and Northern Canada. Okay, so like I said, each region has unique characteristics that influence food import needs, consumer preferences, and distribution network. So this is why this is important. That's uh, basically why I want us to to check this, because they have different food import needs, consumer preferences, and distribution network. There are some parts of Canada that is on the water, that before you can get there, it will take a lot. So how do food get to this place? Places like Newfoundland and Labrador, for instance, they still have Nigerian food stores there. There are people operating those kind of stores right there in St. John's. So how do they do it? So this is one of how we are going to see that. So now let's talk about Atlantic Canada. You have Newfoundland and Labrador, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. Now the total population for this route, for this region, is 2.4 million. Their key cities is Halifax, St. John's in Newfoundland, Moncton and Charlottetown. So now look at the features. A smaller Nigerian population compared to other regions. Okay, compared to other regions. So we have about 2,000 to 3,000 Nigerians in Atlantic Canada, living in Atlantic Canada. Okay, so now the economy is based on seafood, agriculture, and shipping. So we call it Atlantic Canada because this is one part of Canada that is surrounded by water, by the ocean. So that's why it's called Atlantic. Okay, so now economy is based on, you see, seafood, agriculture, shipping. Ethnic food market is growing but less saturated. It's growing but it is less saturated. Okay, so export tip, great for early entry and testing ethnic food lines through local grocery chains and multicultural events. So if you say you want to ship from here directly to this area, that route is a very long route and really expensive. So a lot of Nigerians don't export directly to this place from here. They just use a warehouse in the central region where they usually ship to. So most Nigerian food stores or African food stores will go to this warehouse to now buy and ship and bring it to their own uh, store whether in Newfoundland and Labrador or what have you. Okay, so it's great for market entry, but the thing is that the distance is really far, is really not connected to the main area or the main part of Canada. So you can also check the map yourself and just look at what I'm talking about. Okay, so you also have the central Canada, which you have like Ontario, you have Quebec. Their population is 22 million, unlike the population we just saw now. That is over 56% of Canadians live in this region. Okay, their key city, you have Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. Nigerian population here is the largest. You have the largest Nigerian communities in Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal, and that's over 50,000 people. Over 50,000 Nigerians live in this region. Okay, so that already gives you an insight into what you want to do, how you want to do it. So now I don't know what your plans are, what your thoughts are. Maybe you are thinking of how you can target Nigerian students, Nigerians studying, schooling in Toronto, in Ottawa, with your food products. How do you want to do it? And also this will help you or guide you in your plan. So hub for Afro-Caribbean stores, restaurants, food distributors. Toronto has some of the largest African diaspora markets. Canada, Montreal, French-speaking markets, bilingual labels are required for this area, and also for Quebec. Quebec is also French-speaking. You have the export tip here is to focus on large volumes, established importers, and bilingual packaging, especially for Quebec. Okay, so let's check the next region is the Prairie provinces. We have Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. Now the population here is 6.9 million. The key cities, you have Calgary, you have Edmonton, Winnipeg. Nigerian presence here, you have large Nigerian communities, okay, in Calgary and Edmonton. About 15,000 to 20,000 Nigerians live here. So this is a little bit lesser than what you have in the previous slide that we just spoke about, where you have over 50,000 Nigerians. Okay, so but this is more than the Atlantic Canada region also. So you still have about 15,000 to 20,000 Nigerians there. So Winnipeg is a fast-growing multicultural hub. The features is lower competition in ethnic food imports, strong economic activities, and rising African cultural visibility. Okay, so the tip here is to partner with community stores and churches to build products visibility. Okay, so you can also check out for the schools here, for the schools, churches. I'm talking about the local churches that you have around you here in Nigeria, but they have branches in these provinces. So you see that this is like one of the advantages of having our churches in Nigeria having a global presence. So you have Deeper Life, you have MFM, you have Redeemed, you have, I don't know, different churches, and some of these churches have their branches in these provinces. So you can just check out for them, check out for their members or pastors, talk to them, and see what you can do in terms of trade with them. From there, you can pick up a community that only you is serving from here. So just look at you serving like 500 Nigerians in this province, just 500, 100. If 100 are buying or consuming let's say 50 Canadian dollars worth of Nigerian food in a week. So you can just do the maths and you are shipping it to them, so you can know what you can get from that in a month and a quarter and a year. Okay, so we also have the British Columbia, which is the west coast. Population is about 5.6 million. The key city is Vancouver. The Nigerian presence here is moderate, steadily growing community. Okay, steadily growing community. And key features, we have strong Asian influence in cuisine, but growing African diaspora, excellent port for direct imports. Export tip, focus on premium ethnic products and or for health conscious and diverse market. Leverage port of Vancouver for direct shipping. For direct shipping to this place, you can use the port of Vancouver. So this Vancouver has a very moderate number of Nigerians. I think maybe because of the weather here. A lot of Nigerians are not really here, unlike the other parts of the regions that we've considered. Okay, that we've looked at. So we also have the northern Canada territories, Yukon, Northwest Territories, and we have the Nunavut. Population is less than 150,000, sparsely populated. Key cities: Yellowknife, Whitehorse, Quaaludes, and you have features: minimal Nigerian presence, just less than 500. Okay, less than 500 Nigerians are present here. High transportation and logistics cost, not recommended as a primary export region. Okay, but may offer government contract for specialty food or program. So it's really a place that is sparsely populated and all that, even though the areas can be wide in terms of landmass and all that, but it's really sparsely populated. Okay, so if you look at the summary of it all, we have the Atlantic Canada. The Nigerian community there is small. For the central Canada, yeah, that's where you have the very large Nigerian community. For the prairie provinces, you have a large community, while the west coast we have a moderate Nigerian community, and northern Canada you have very small community in northern Canada. So that gives you a kind of the export opportunity level in this region. So in this region, you might want to consider central Canada, prairie province, and the west coast. Okay, for starting out your business. But key cities like Halifax also. So let's say you've tried to enter into these big Nigerian communities in Canada, you've not been able to do that. You can also consider the Atlantic Canada. So you can start reaching out to people there, start reaching out to Nigerian communities, African communities over there, just to see what you can do. Even though it's moderate, but you can start from there, because you have a lot of people who are not who are actually shipping to Canada, but they are not doing a direct shipment or export to these regions. Okay, so it's one of those things you can look into. So logistics and distribution channels. Logistics and distribution channels. Shipping methods: sea freight for bulk shipments. That's where we talk about the containerized shipment, 40-feet containers and 20-feet containers. Air freight for perishable and high value items. So sometimes we can have container that has already been loaded, but because there are some certain items that we are looking at that by the time it also get there, the content would have spoiled, so we'll rather use air freight for those, so that it can be cleared over there before the main container arrives. Okay, and also, even if the goods are not going to be perishable or they are high value, but you know that they are small in volume, So it's just better to use air freight for that. You can't use sea freight for that. Okay, now distribution hubs in Canada, we have Toronto, Ontario, Vancouver, British Columbia, Montreal, Quebec. So you can use any of these hubs where you can maybe get someone to work with, you know, to ship right there, and the retailers can get it from there. The retailers can buy the products from there. So that's also another business point of view that you can look at. Okay, so warehousing, utilize bonded warehouses for storage and distribution. So sometimes you might be the one that offer home delivery to your client, but you don't want to use express, you don't want to use DHL express and all that. So you might want to partner with warehouses. Okay, and meanwhile, if you look at the rates, if the rates are not too expensive, you can use DHL, FedEx and all that, and they will do home delivery. They will take it to their own warehouse, and from there they will deliver it to the doorstep of your client. So custom brokers, engage licensed custom brokers to facilitate clearance for you over there. That is if you are doing your shipment in a container, but the container contains different consignments going to different regions or going to different businesses or people, then you can use a licensed custom broker over there who will do the clearing for you and all that. And there are even logistics companies on standby over there that will take each consignment, you know, just the way you've already labeled the consignment. Oh, this one is for so and so address, so and so another, and they will deliver it to them. Just that those clients of yours will have to now pay them maybe extra logistics. Maybe you'll be the one to have paid them already, you know, depending on your agreement or the arrangements, you know, with your clients. Okay, so challenges and considerations. Okay, so in these challenges we have regulatory compliance. You know, you want to adhere strictly to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So like I already said, that when you are exporting in containers, when it's a containerized shipment, you want to pay attention, lots of attention to what you are shipping. Okay, you want to make sure there are no mistakes, no errors, because once there's an error, once there is a mistake, it means everything in that container is going to be brought out and check one by one after the other. All right, so you don't want that to happen. So cultural preferences, you need to understand and cater to diverse consumer tastes. Okay, competition, presence of established ethnic food brands. Okay, so really for you, your competition might actually come from other Nigerian exporters who already you know, have a foothold or have a good grip on a certain Nigerian community, you know, that you are also targeting. So let's say you are talking to someone in Alberta, for instance, Calgary, and you want to be shipping to the person, and the person is also telling you that maybe someone already is doing that, and you know, and they are buying from such persons. Okay, so it happens a lot, but not to discourage you. You just need to continue, you know, like trying to break into that market, because a time will come they might need more supplies. They might need someone to even supply them something different, something unique that only you can do, and that's how you just start supplying them. And one other way to cut into or break that kind of competition is that you might offer a different product, you know, something cheaper, something whose quality is even better, a product that is not cannot easily be found, and but is needed right there. Okay, maybe something that you are the one that even processed and produced it. Okay, so those are things that can also help you. Then seasonality, demand for certain products, they may be seasonal, okay, over there. So some products may be seasonal. It could be that maybe it will spoil fast in a certain season, or maybe it will still remain intact, you know, for long. So these also are some of the things that might be challenging for you along the way.